We go to Russia, where Russian President Vladimir Putin appears to be acknowledging mistakes in how his draft has been carried out. The New York Times reports his comments came during a televised address to the country this week. While stopping short of recognizing whether he himself made any mistakes, Putin reportedly said the draft had raised, quote, many questions. Specifically, he talked about citizens who were wrongly drafted despite being eligible for deferments, including fathers of 3 or more children, men with chronic diseases, or men above military age. Putin added, quote, those who were called up without proper reason should be returned home. The concessions are believed to be linked to the massive and frequent public protests Russia is currently experiencing as its war on Ukraine escalates and more Russian citizens try to flee the country. I think maybe, Willie, it's possible Putin got the message that some people in his country are not buying this war.
Yeah, a little bit of a crack in the facade for Putin, though. We'll see what it means, because he signed those decrees yesterday recognizing the independence of 2 Ukrainian regions, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia. The move serves as a precursor now to the annexation of those territories, along with Ukraine's Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Putin is expected to announce those moves today. The annexation follows a series of what the West is calling sham referendums, where more than 95% of the vote favored joining Russia, often at gunpoint. Putin has previously warned of a nuclear response if any threat is made against its own land. That potentially could include those 4 Ukrainian regions after they're annexed. President Biden yesterday addressed Russia's plans.
The United States will never recognize Russia's claims on Ukraine's sovereign territory. This so-called referenda was a sham, an absolute sham. The results were manufactured in Moscow, and the true will of the Ukrainian people is evident every day as they sacrifice their lives to save their people and maintain the independence of their country. Russia's assault on Ukraine in pursuit of Putin's imperial ambitions is a flagrant violation of the UN Charter and the basic principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
It's President Biden yesterday in Washington. Joining us now, President of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass, and the host of Way Too Early, White House bureau chief at Politico, and the author of the bestseller, The Big Lie, Jonathan Lemire. Good morning to you both. Richard, again, the beard is incredibly strong on a Friday morning, but let's put that to the side. I just can't not mention it because it's right there in front of me.
It's a good point.
Let's talk about more serious matters, though, and Russia and this ceremony today that Putin's going to hold in Red Square, something of a mission accomplished ceremony saying, look, we've brought these 4 regions home. Our mission to bring them back has been a success, and here we are celebrating that. Where are we right now with Vladimir Putin? Fold in the Nord Stream pipeline, this annexation, these sham votes, the call up of 300,000 reservists. What's the state of play in Russia right now?
Well, Willie, what I think we're seeing is the fact that on the battlefield in Ukraine, Russia continues to slowly lose territory. Ukraine is gradually clawing it back. So what we're seeing then on the Russian side are responses to it to change the narrative. One is the political one with the referendum, the annexations. This is the illusion of gains against the reality of loss. You have the sabotage against the pipelines. You have a return to what we would call indiscriminate shelling or intentional, purposeful shelling of civilian areas. This increasingly is the strategy. The Russians can't win military on military, so they're turning to an entire other set of tools or responses to try to change the narrative at home, to try to weaken Western support for Ukraine, and that's where the threats of nuclear use come in. So this is, I think, what we can expect to see for the foreseeable future.
And Jonathan Lemire, let's talk about the White House reaction. It appears President Biden keeping that strong, clear, focused message about Russia.
Yeah, certainly President Biden has not wavered in his support for Kyiv, as well as keeping that alliance together to do so, even as Europe stands ready to be tested by a cold, dark winter. And we saw the far right-wing candidate just come to power in Italy. But it's also a bipartisan support. And there's been, even domestically, there's been very few cracks in the facade. And yesterday, there was by the Senate, Senators Graham and Blumenthal, Republican and Democrat, announced the measures that would have real sanctions and punishments for any country that did recognize those territories as part of Russia here. So now they're standing firm. But Richard, obviously, there was some speculation early in the war that Putin might do something like this, try to claim some sort of victory and use it as an off-ramp to say, hey, we got what we wanted to do, we're going to leave now. Seems like that has really tamped down. People think this is rather him locking in Russia into the combat. Tell us your assessment of that, but also give us a little more as to why you think the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage, believed, not proven, believed to be Moscow, looms so importantly.
I don't think it's an off-ramp because I don't think either side is thinking of off-ramps. I just don't see the raw material for diplomatic compromise here. The minimum Russia could accept is not even clear, and Ukraine's not willing to give anything like that up. There just is no overlap. So, diplomats could work 24/7. They will have zero to show for it. I think both sides are settling in for a long war. I think that's the reality, not just through the winter, but long, long beyond. I think this is going to stretch on, and we need to set our internal clocks to that. The reason I think it's sabotage is Putin understands that Europe is moving away from gas and oil dependency on him. That's already happened. Actually, more has happened in the last 2 months than people realize. Europe is making some significant progress. So Putin didn't have a lot to lose. His exports in the future are not going to be to Europe. They're going to be in other directions, to India, to China. He has to build the infrastructure on gas to do it. He's already doing it with oil. I think it's his way to maximize the pain this winter. He is hoping against hope, that this winter could be a critical breakthrough. He had the Italian elections, maybe now putting extra energy pressure on Europe to get Europe to crack, to reduce its support for Ukraine. I don't think he's going to succeed, but that's what I think this is all about. He's essentially taking a bit of a gamble to maximize his chances for European weakness this winter. I don't think it's going to work.